Good evening, everyone, back at home, and welcome to our first ever online edition of the Business Update session, Why Sustainability is Inevitable. My name is Celine. I'm the Alumni Community Manager at the Faculty of Business and Economics, and I'm very happy to welcome you here today, even though it's not in person on campus. As some of you may know, our faculty has actually been hosting these business update sessions for quite a few years now, always revolving around topics that are current and relevant for our alumni, but also for students. Now, this business update session actually was originally thought up about a year ago, but then it was named a bit differently. It was Why Sustainability is Inevitable in 2020. But of course, due to the very well-known reasons, we've had to postpone the event. But now, a year later, we're very lucky that the digital solutions are quite abundant, and that after this session, we can invite all of you to an online networking event on WonderMe. And of course, during the entire session, you'll be able to ask questions to all of our keynote speakers, which then will be answered at the end of the session. But then without further ado, I suggest we get started with the presentations. And first of all, we have Professor Hans Verboven. Professor Hans Verboven teaches at the University of Antwerp and is expertise in sustainability management. He also founded Sustalab, which is a company that works together with students from our faculty to aim to help companies achieve sustainable growth. So, Professor Hans, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Celine, for introducing me, and a warm welcome also from my point. I've been teaching here at this faculty since 2003, so chances are that you have seen me, or that I have taught to you some courses: business, German, popular course, research methodology, or ethical and sustainable business. And then it is about ethical and sustainable, especially about sustainable business, that I will talk to you. I want to introduce you a consultancy company for good, so a social profit company which we founded at this university, sort of spin-off. It doesn't really exist in a legal point of view. It's a collaboration of students, young alumni, and it's named Sustalab, as from Sustainability Lab. And I call the Sustalab members, which are all business engineers or students of economics, I call them the green swans, hence what you see, a green swan on your presentation. Here you see some of the faces of this year, of last year, a lot of them working now in companies, some of them present, I know, here. And what we aim at with Sustalab is really, like Celine mentioned in our introduction, at helping companies to accelerate innovation, but not just innovation, helping them to accelerate sustainable innovation. This is a bit of our mission, which you can see on the slide. We want to focus on this sustainable business model innovation, that's our niche, and also in terms of our segment, we mostly focus on family-owned, medium-sized, and large enterprises. And I will explain to you what exactly that we do at this faculty with Sustalab. So, in essence, we're a community where we want to combine the practice that we teach here at the faculty with consultancy. And consultancy, sometimes, well, it's an awkward name to be a consultant. There are a lot of prejudices about it, but basically consultants are people that help other people in business with expertise, with methodologies. And this is what I aim to teach these students. I myself am only a partial professor at the university. I also have a consultancy firm, so I'm in between academia and business. I'm neither part of completely of one of them, but really in between. Our team now has in total 50 students and alumni that participate in the broad network, so it's quite an interesting bunch. And the main goal for which we founded this is really to bridge the gap between theory, between academia and business world. And I think over the past few years, our faculty and our university has made an enormous progress in linking our students, linking our courses to real business needs, without, of course, making it too practical. And I see here a lot of professors around me that are business oriented, that have sound theoretical methodologies that really work, that can help people in companies that are over busy from 7 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock in the evening, people that are so busy that they don't really reflect on this, well, we have the methodologies that can help them easily. That's basically the essence of Sustalab. So when I summarize it, 3 points: we want to aim at sustainable growth, sustainable optimization of processes, and then basically sustainable strategy and innovation. We in Sustalab have developed with students a lot of tools to use. And these tools are typically developed in the course of a master's thesis. So students write their master's thesis, they have a theoretical part, they study a framework, for example, sustainability, risk, enterprise risk management with a focus on specific risk or specific optimization tools. And then they go to companies, and in these companies, they work on this topic and they gain practical insights on it. So it's really a win-win for this company, because the company has access to theory and of course to the intelligence of these students, and they are helped by the solutions they offer. When we summarize this, we think of ourselves as a consultancy for good company, so we don't need to make profit, but we want to keep on going. So we focus on a number of companies with limited offers, where sometimes they want to pay our students. I always think that's better that they earn a little bit of money in a company than delivering pizzas for Uber. And basically the offer exists of innovation as a service and talent as a service. Innovation as a service, that's well delineed. You can focus on a specific little number of topics, but they all relate to innovation. Whereas talent as a service is broader, and they typically do, in terms of talent as a service, they can do an HR project or a CO2 reduction project when it can get more technical, or a risk assessment project, for example. On the photo, you see some of my Sustalab staff, the youngest one in front, with the 25 CEOs of Belgian companies in an event organized by BNP Paribas. When we look at the innovation, we start from a number of innovation paradoxes, and that really is the starting point of talking to companies. There are 7 innovation paradoxes, and you don't have to learn them by heart, and some are similar, but basically most companies do not see the immediate return of investing in innovation. And that's difficult. That's like going on a diet where you have to take a little bit of suffering and the result comes later. In difficult times, innovation, unfortunately, is not the first priority of companies. That's a pity, because exactly in these difficult times, in these moments of crisis, you have the most opportunities. And when you move then, when your competitors are not doing anything, well, you can gain the most speed. And the third paradox is that innovative companies have sort of Matthias effect, have the capability to become even more innovative and to increase the competitive distance between them and their competitors. So that's a pity then if you're not in the pack and you're not following. And then fourth paradox, which we use to make our pitch to the companies with Sustalab, is that when you feel the need to innovate the hardest, the circumstances, the preconditions are probably the worst, so you're not really inclined to do so. And then I will talk about the fifth innovation paradox. It's basically about the difference between optimization and innovation. A lot of people are looking for big bang disruptive innovation, and you can wait quite a lot of time for that. Mostly innovation comes slowly, it's more step by step, it's incremental innovation. And I tend to talk about this just using the word optimization. So if you want to focus on optimization, if you don't take up too much of a burden for that, you can gain in the end much more than when you're looking for the real big bang innovation. And a very important methodological point which we want to make with Sustalab, and the first 5 paradoxes you can find them in management literature, but these number 6 and number 7 is really something we've developed and which we've seen in practice. The idea is with our young team that you need to bring in talent, unprejudiced talent from the outside, the green swans of Sustalab, to really have the capability to innovate. Because otherwise, when you're working with your own team, you are thinking within the rules of the game. You can change these rules a little bit, but you will not achieve or will not get the real game-changing rules. That's why you need people from the outside. That's how we try to make the case for getting Sustalab people on board. And then on the other side, a lot of these Sustalab boys and girls work in these companies, but they mostly lack the project management skills to bring a good innovative project to a good end, because that takes then another approach. So you can get them to ignite the innovation project, but then to really elaborate it in the long term, you need your own staff. So we've developed a methodology, which is called Battle of the Boards, where we have in a one-day workshop with the board of directors of a company, or with the management team, or green swans, or which we call them sometimes, or board of millennials. We position it against the board of directors or the management team, and in 3 rounds we get them to challenge the business ideas they have. And then in the 3rd round it gets to synthesis. There's a sort of new hope, a common understanding, and from this then sometimes a strategic plan evolves. So it's an interesting methodology where you get young talent from our university on board in your company. They challenge everything, and then in the end, when you look at the 50 ideas they have, mostly 5 to 10 ideas are really worth elaborating, and are things which you haven't thought of yourself. When you see this matrix, we use basically this approach to show it to companies. In the lower quadrant on the left, you have the people that are inside the company that know the sector very well, and if they work on innovation, they gain nothing. The best thing they can improve, they just think they are peers, so they think about the same things. When you move to the right, you get continuous improvement, and that's basically when you get a consultant in. For example, when I would walk into this company, I have a little bit of distance to the board of directors or to the management team. I'm not really limited in saying the things that I want to say, but I know the sector. So I'll come up with some interesting ideas, but still within the rules of the game. It's only when you get the people from the outside that do not know the inside people and that do not really possess knowledge, biased knowledge about the sector, that you can get interesting things. This approach, which we then call a sort of hotspot of innovation, when you combine the 3 factors in this approach, you can get a methodology, you can get a result where you can convince the board or the management team of new ideas. So you need all the 3 parties to really get something going. And you might say this is a methodology, it's nice, but over the last 3 years, we've quite had some impact. We developed here at the faculty the Susta tool, which is the Flemish standard for CSR management in small and medium-sized companies. We have, over the last year, although it's Corona, organized 5 board battles, which I find a success just for this last academic year. It used to be more, but of course Corona has come between it. And we have worked for the companies, which you can see on this slide, which is quite an interesting bunch of Flemish and here and there and international companies. And the special thing about the Sustalab experience for a student is that they really get to know people at the C-level in companies. It's when they join a company, it will take them some years to get to this moment where they can really talk to them freely. But with Sustalab, they can really communicate with them very well. And that's a very nice experience. It gives them sort of head start. Here are some testimonials. I will not read them out so you can read them well. But these are CEOs of large enterprises. We work a lot in the construction sector. That has to do with my personal preference and network. But our students also like this because the construction sector is something new, tangible. They can really see things, and there's a lot of material impact, and material impact means opportunities for innovations, for circularity, and for CO2 optimization. So I'm at the end of this presentation of Sustalab. These boys and girls which you see are all all engineers now have studied here. They're working in companies and they take the Sustalab experience through their career, and they are still proud alumni. And this is something which we notice on LinkedIn. Our alumni group is very active and they even help each other. And I find it a very good example of how our university and our faculty helps students to bridge this gap between academia and business in order to create more sustainable business, in order to shape also their experience, to shape them as the business leader of tomorrow. Thank you for listening to me.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor Verboven, for that presentation. I think everyone at home especially learned a lot. Next up, I would like to welcome Karen Bins. Karen is actually an alumna of ours, so a fellow alumni of a lot of you. She graduated in 2004 as a business engineer, and currently she works as a business developer sustainability at Atlas Copco. And during the next half hour, she will be more than happy to share some of her insights and best practices. So Karen, the floor is yours.
Good evening all. Thanks for the invitation for this very exciting topic. So hi, I'm Karen Bins. I'm married to Wouter. I'm mom of 3 kids, Willem, Ruben and Clara, and I love life. Better without Corona and a bit more sun, but okay. But more than life, I love our planet. And you could already see 3 main reasons why I want to keep it spinning as long as possible. But working, living, enjoying life, taking into account our environment and our people around us, it just makes sense. As a family, we made some sustainable choices. We both work full-time but only have 1 car. We have a lot of bikes though. We invested in a house in the row, which is almost energy neutral in the middle of a village. We are flexitarians, but I do have my black spots though. I love chocolate and coffee, and I occasionally need to travel for work by plane. Train would be better though. So I believe Atlas Copco can be part of the solution and has the potential for long-term success. We have the technology and the innovational spirit needed to start this urgent transition towards a more sustainable business. And as a business controller sustainability, I foremost align all within the company to make sure that they see sustainability is the key for this long-term success. So let me introduce you briefly into Atlas Copco. I want to give you a bit of an idea what we do and who we are. So first of all, we have our 3 main, we have our purpose and our 3 main values, which is innovation, interaction and commitment. And as you could see from our purpose on site, we want to create a better tomorrow and we want to be part of that solution. So who are our customers? You will find our customers throughout every industry: transportation, medical devices, food, even space exploration and energy markets. And most of the time, our products are of a key value for their processes. A bit of numbers, of course. Atlas Copco, as you can see, is a financially very healthy company. We are based in Sweden, but we do have a wide spread throughout the world from our own footprint, but also from our customer base. We are a very decentralized group, grouped in 4 main business areas, of which compressor technique is a business area I'm the business controller sustainability of. We're the ones selling air. We have 7 divisions which are grouped around equipment and or service. And as you can see here, compressor technique has a fair share in the total of Atlas Copco. So in a nutshell, we're a financial healthy business. What would be the risks for us to come in the coming years? How can we succeed between the planetary boundaries and stay successful? We see a new reality out there. We don't no longer have only investors and shareholders taking an interest in what we do, but all sorts of stakeholders. They have genuine interests too. They even place demands on what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. So we in Atlas Copco, we have always taken into account, since many years, all these stakeholders' perspectives, as we are reporting in the Global Reporting Initiative Standard, and we are this year performing our third materiality analysis to make sure that we know and act towards the requirements of all our stakeholders. But let's see a bit more for our financial stakeholders. We see financial risks shifting. Also, the World Economic Forum, as you can see here, the green buttons and the line years moving up, climate risks and environmental risks are making a staggering climb up that ladder by likelihood, but also by impact. Leaving Corona aside, again, we know it wins a lot of firsts lately. So what we know that our stakeholders are taking an interest. They make us provide for resilient business. We also know the ESG risks that are coming, the environmental, social, and governance risks are of top priority for our investors. Sustainability is a key attraction point for our new and existing employees. And more than only helping our customers saving energy with their compressors, we also need to make sure that we help them realizing their climate ambitions. We know that markets are shifting through the climate crisis. Obvious example is the rise of EVs and battery production. But also new markets, energy markets such as wind, solar, hydrogen. They will give us some opportunities for new business. We also know that more and more countries are taking up their game. EU Green Deal, but recently also US Green Deal. And more countries are thinking, implementing, or planning for carbon taxes. And finally, we know that the state of our planet means that we cannot longer wait. Just to have a super short recap on the state of our planet. As you can see here, the best possible science tells us that we need to halve our emissions every decade to get to the net zero by 2050. And why is that? To avoid catastrophic climate change. This is in the first graph, the so-called carbon law. But science also tells us that we cannot only focus on climate. There are 9 planetary boundaries, for which some of them you can also already see that they have reached or breached their boundaries. So we need to take into account freshwater reserves and biodiversity as well. So few things, areas of actions to take first look at. Climate ambition. We want to make sure that we keep up a high climate ambition when it comes to our own carbon footprint. Not only for our investors, not only for other stakeholders, but just to show that we do our share. We also want to make sure and stimulate innovation as much as possible for this long-term success. This to unlock business opportunities, to save costs, and to decouple the business growth from environmental impact. And last, we know this will not be business as usual. We need to start, transform, change, jump, leap, or walk back step by step. Of course, within Atlas Copco, we already have some things that we are doing in these areas. And we made kind of a framework, of course. As you can see, we call it our focus areas. We believe these focus areas will lead us to long-term success. And as you can see as well, 5 of them are non-financial. For each of these focus areas, we have provided a vision, a strategy, but also KPIs and goals with a 2030 horizon. Let's take a look at them one by one. It might not come as a surprise for an engineering company that we focus a lot on our product innovation. We want our products to create long-lasting results and value and have a positive impact. For Atlas Copco compressor technique, all our machines are already electrified, meaning they can all run on renewable energy potentially. But we have been working for decades now to make sure that we always have the most efficient machine on the market. And we also help our customers to optimize the use of this machine, to make sure that they minimize the energy used and maximize the lifespan. We design them with environment and future in mind. When it comes to our own footprint, talking about the climate, we want to minimize the resources used in all of our operations. So from energy, we try to minimize the use of energy, but also make it green wherever possible in the world. On transport, we mainly focus to shift towards rail and sea instead of air freight. For water, although it's not material to our operations, we keep an eye on reducing our water footprint year on year, and also waste we try to follow up in kilos to make sure that our volume's going down, but also that we start recycling and keep reusing our material. Of course, we want to be known for our ethical behavior, our integrity and honesty and our openness. And therefore, we ask all our employees, but also our business partners, to sign our code of conduct and to live by it. We help each other grow and thrive. A company is only as strong as the people working for it, right? So we believe that our culture of inclusion and cooperation is the key for our success. As an engineering company, we do not have that much women in our midst. So we value every diversity. However, for the moment, we are focusing on improving our gender balance, and we aim at 30% by 2030. And of course, we want everybody to get home safe at the end of the day. So as you can see, sustainability for Atlas Copco, it's not just a label that we put on how we do business. We really want this to be part of our business. We want to have the positive outcomes for people and planet, because we need the resources to do what we do, and we need the people and the society where we operate in to grow and thrive. We really believe this is the key for the long-term success for our business. And we also believe that this is how we can create a better tomorrow. What will you do? Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Karen, for that very interesting presentation. We saw that we had a question in the Q&A for Professor Hans Verboven. So before we go to the keynotes by Astrid, we will give Professor Verboven the opportunity to answer that question.
Thank you, Celine. Tweede zit voor mij. I saw there was a question. How do you work with can use cross-industry innovation in this sustainability process? Well, it's a good question. I could have mentioned something about it. I really believe that the collaboration between industries is very interesting to reach more potential. You see this especially when you look at circular business models, where you really have to cluster and where you have to go deep up and downstream of your supply chain to help. And it goes further than just optimizations. It goes really about how do you think in the processes of a partner deep down your chain to optimize things. In Sustalab, we have a methodology which we use, and it works by analogy. We use flashcards. We did not invent them. They're from the University of St. Gallen, and they all focus on specific archetypes of business model innovation. And some of them are sustainable. These are the ones that we prefer. And by analogy, they use best practices of specific industries. And then we challenge people from other industries to think about this idea and to look in a way from a methodological point of view to adapt this and to use this for themselves. And that gives insight. But I really believe, and I think that's the summary, that collaboration and cluster thinking throughout the chain and with clients and suppliers from different industries offer a lot of possibilities to learn from each other and to optimize in the first place. So I hope this answers your question. Thank you.
All right, thank you for the comeback, Professor Verboven. So now we are on to our third keynote of the evening, which will be given by Astrid van Parys. She actually works at Colruyt Group as a CSR manager, and she's also head of the sustainability team there. So probably a lot of you already know, but Colruyt does portray itself as a key reference when it comes to sustainable entrepreneurship. So I think we're all very excited to find out more, and that's exactly what Astrid will do in the next half hour.
All right. Well, thank you, first of all, so much for this opportunity. Just checking out my slides. But thank you anyway so much for the opportunity to talk about sustainability at Colruyt Group. Maybe it's not a real evidence actually to talk about, to mention sustainability and a retailer and make the connection between those two, because one sometimes used to think that maybe the retail sector has known its end, and it's very interesting to see on how this can evolve and how sustainability can actually help to make sure that we can create added value through sustainable entrepreneurship. So why sustainability is inevitable? Well, let me actually think about the story of Colruyt Group, and I'll just give you a very small introduction about Colruyt Group, who probably you will all know with regard to Colruyt Lowe's prices, but also might for some business formulas such as BioPlanet, for example, Collie Shop Dreamland, Dream Baby, and so on. So we mainly B2C focused, but also are very much active into the B2B business. So, which makes it also very important or very relevant with regard to sustainability, is that we have so many business formulas, and it's also very interesting that every business formula has its own target group and its own identity, and actually how can you make a bond between all these retail formulas and making sure that they can also make sure that they come together with regard to sustainability, and that she actually also keep the group's mission into account, and which also makes it very interesting actually to work for Colruyt Group and actually see how sustainability could be implemented in various sorts of activities. So as you probably know, Vice-rector, for example, or EOLI is one of these more sustainable entrepreneurship formulas, where actually we're also looking at making sure that we can also get entrepreneurship out of new sustainable business model solutions. So it is very interesting actually how you make the combination of just on the one hand entrepreneurship and on the other hand a more sustainable way of living and acting. So that makes it very interesting to look a bit forward in the future and actually how you can make businesses more sustainable along the way. So actually it is inevitable, if you talk about sustainability, to actually tell a little bit about the story and the history of the company. And it all started out in 1902 when Frans Colruyt was born, and he was the second of 11 children. And he also helped his father to sell bread and to sell other goods with regard to the local shop that they had in Lembeek. And quite soon, he was a very entrepreneurial character. He also started to sell more products to other local store managers and other big suppliers. And it was actually a very good idea. And he started out his own business. And in 1959, for example, he had his own enterprise with regard to wholesale business. And he was listed as Etablissement de Frans Colruyt, who's actually quite known because it's also listed on that name on the Belgian Stock Exchange. And then in 1960, must be around that period, his son also came into the business. And at that time, I think they must have been delivering goods and services specific to local entrepreneurs and local shops, about 800 independent storekeepers. And it was a very interesting time because it was also the rising of the supermarket actually in the United States. And it was a very interesting time because the whole business model, the whole retail formula came up. And they also at some time in 1958, in 1960s, it became way too expensive actually to deliver goods to specific store managers. And what they did is to make the connection between innovation and a sort of sustainability. They really had to reinvent themselves, and they started out a new formula in 1964, which is called cash and carry. And it was a sort of a unique discount formula, actually, where they sold what is sort of a self-service for customers at that time, where they actually start selling goods at wholesale prices. And how could they do that? They actually could do that because they really worked on efficiency and innovation. So efficiency and innovation was also the very start of thinking more sustainable. How can you use less resources than needed? How can you use how can you lower up on costs, making sure that you can offer the lowest prices? And this is where the very heart of sustainability is actually began with regard to Colruyt and Colruyt lowest prices at that time. So it's very much still in the spirit and the heads of people who work for Colruyt Group, making sure that, for example, you only use what you need. And it is still a very relevant way of thinking, especially with all the environmental problems that we face today. At some time, Colruyt likes to praise this. It was cash and carry concept changed its name into Colruyt when at the area of Jo Colruyt. And then in 1994, unfortunately, he died very unexpectedly, and his son, Chef Colruyt, took it over. And at the time of Chef Colruyt, he really started to diversify, and he also started to rethink the whole concept of sustainability. It was also the concept of how could we actually be accountable, also making sure that the activities that we have today still can generate value for the next generations. And he's very much involved into this whole topic. He's very much trying to combine a great liaison between entrepreneurship, making sure that you take care of the resources of the earth that is giving us, but also on a more social manner. And it is very particular to enter the Colruyt Group way of thinking, because I remember very well when I entered the company, I think it must be around 10 years ago, that they really were wondering on who are you as a person, where do you want to go, how you want to involve yourself. So it has a specific culture only of combining entrepreneurship, only the way of thinking, on thinking very efficiently, but also combining it with who are you as a person, where do you want to head, how can you make sure that you have the knowledge to do your job, but also that you have satisfaction on a personal level. So the whole way of thinking is very particular for Colruyt Group, and is also thinking needed. And I think Chef was one of the first persons who really understood the big three assets that we really need to work on if we also look at sustainability. So Today we have 30,000 employees. We mainly working in Belgium, of course, also in France, but we really believe that our people make the difference, and people actually the striving force to make sure that we can still generate valuable business, real value as a business in the future. So who are our values? I'm not going to look all of them, but what is very important is the way of efficiency, which is translated into simplicity, making sure that if you offer specific services or specific goods to your customers, that you make it as simple as possible. Also combined with our readiness to serve, how can you help? Which is also quite important in the concept when I'm going to talk about the eco score just a little bit later on. How can you help really simple solutions? How can you make sure that customers can make very conscious, simple choices in order to make a more sustainable lifestyle and actually to make healthy, good choices that are easy to make. And another one is also very much related to entrepreneurship, the space and having the courage actually to work to do your job daily and also to entrepreneur. If you enter the company, it's very easy to say, I have an idea, and we have specific ways of thinking about innovation, starting out new products. We get a lot of space actually to find out whether or not we can find new things to do, or whether or not we could actually add to the efficiency or add to more sustainable entrepreneurship. And this is also why it keeps on going. This is also why I believe people are very much attached to the culture and very much attached to the company, because we do get the space and the courage to find out if their ideas will work, and also to try. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't really. It's not bad. You can learn from it. But if you try, it's a very good idea. Just to keep on trying and to keep innovating, and to keep on working on better solutions for tomorrow. And the other one, which is also very much stated also in the values, but in our mission, that's the idea of togetherness. And I believe the complexity of ideas that we have today, that we face today in our society, in relationship to the social issues, but also to entrepreneurial issues and ecological issues, the idea of doing it together in the value chain is one of the most one of the most important ones that we're facing today. We will not solve the problem on Colruyt Group itself. We will not solve the problem with 2 or 3 partners. Now we can only solve the problem if we look at the way if we look at the way why we exist. This is the reason our customers, but also the suppliers, the people in the beginning of the chain. So the whole idea of creating added value through the whole value chain is very particular, is of utmost importance when you think about sustainability. And this is all the reason why he wrote this. And I think this was written when I entered the company. It must be around 10, 15 years ago, I think. And this is also what struck me and what keeps me motivated actually to do what we have to do at Colruyt Group, to create sustainable added value through the value-driven craftsmanship in retail. So it starts, and this is a sentence that Chef has written itself, and I really like it because it says exactly what we should do as a company today. You should start from your economic impetus. We can also aim to bring about a positive, a social and ecological dynamism with long-term results in mind. We should keep it also, make sure that the company is actually centered around its values and its mission. And of course, its activities will change over time. But if you have the idea that you can combine the 3 aspects and that you can actually make progress, find new partners for new solutions, I think that is the main importance of a company today, that you keep reinventing yourself, only focused on an innovative and a sustainable way of thinking. And this is the value chain what I'm thinking about. This is the value chain what I'm talking about. And I think in the very early days of Colruyt lowest prices, I think in order to make more efficiency, we have been focusing mostly on what we do, what can we do ourselves. So all the topics with regard to logistical excellence, transport, the whole idea of keeping people in balance, which is also very important, and which also resulted just later on onto the idea of generating a Colruyt Group Academy, is very much on what we have always been doing, having a direct impact, a positive direct impact on the environment and the people that are that are in our company today. And just then a little bit later on, we started thinking about the indirect impact that we have as a company. First of all, with regard to sourcing, because we do know that we have a lot of products on the shelf, and that we also need to make sure that they also need to make sure that the products, actually the raw materials and the whole production process is as good as possible and as sustainable as possible. So yes, we also talk with suppliers, with producers, in order to make sure that first these things are done, that the whole value chain also becomes more sustainable as a whole. And then of course we have the consumer, which is our reason to believe, the consumer that we actually believe that the greatest impact that they have today is enormous. So what we really think is we find ourselves at a very interesting place in the supply chain between the consumer, between the producer, and at the beginning of the value chain. I believe our leverage as a retailer could be the connection of those two, making sure that what we listen to what is happening in society, that we actually listen to the needs of the customer and make the connections to the people in front of the value chain, and making sure that we find a good reason to understanding, and that we can be a leverage to combine those two factors together. And this is also why I believe sustainability can also help us help the whole value chain to lift up and make sure that we can have answers for tomorrow. And this is actually the framework that I've also been working on for several months now, with the on the right hand, actually the SDGs, which are a very important common language today. The whole program that is based on peace and partnership in order to resolve the problems of the opportunities of tomorrow. Then we have made our own translation into the 12 programs that you see over there. Regarding, for example, all sorts of topics like agriculture, like climate, but also like training and development, working conditions, how can we live together? So you can see it's a very mixed of themes that are actually very much interacting each other, and actually need to combine, and the projects that we have really combine all those through several programs with one another, and making sure that we make it a relevant project in order to make sure that it really helps our business any further. And then the 3 pillars is the way that we are organized, making sure that the board of directors is also representing it, and making sure that the programs get the useful air that is needed. And then of course the step-by-step program in order to also be helpful for our consumers to make sure that they can make the choices that are really best fit for themselves. So this is actually the framework that we have around sustainability at Colruyt Group. So I just wanted to give you some small examples, so how we put this into practice. And one of the most recent one is the eco score. And for example, why have we done this eco score? Actually, it is because there are so many environmental challenges happening today, and the consumer knows that a lot of things are done, and actually a lot of information is given, but they find themselves really into a jungle of information today, and by step really want to make them helpful in a more simple, efficient way. So what have we been doing? Actually, we have been looking at a very interesting model invented by a French collective, and has very much focused on LCAs of product categories. And what they really do is they have data with regard to specific product categories, so they can really see the environmental impact that a specific product category has today. Just like take chocolate biscuits, for example. So they really know from the raw material till the end of life, what is the environmental on the chocolate biscuit today. And they also have added, that's the first component. And the second component is, for example, they added some pluses and minuses with regard to, for example, biodiversity or packaging or the origin of specific raw materials. So they created a whole system to score a specific product category. And this is actually how you get a score and how you get as a consumer an idea of the environmental impact it has today on a specific product that you're buying. So what are we doing? We have been working together with the French collective. They have their own database, which is called Agrigalis, which we are working together with other suppliers and make sure that you get more and more primary data and you get more and more up-to-date information with regard to the environmental impact it has on a specific product. And this is actually how we, just like a bit like the Nutri-Score, really want to help customers to make more conscious choices. And of course, everyone is very free to do whatever they want and to choose the products that they want, but at least we give them information on the environmental impact that a product has today. So this is one of the initiatives that we have been taking recently, and we will keep on expanding this in the future, of course. So where can you find the Equal Score? Most of them have, if you are a client of specifically of one of the Colruyt group stores, you have an app which is called the Extra app, and then you can scan the product and then you can see the result. But of course, it is also possible to do it on packaging later on and so on. So we get our customers best informed. Maybe just a second case, which is more like a social responsible case. It is an initiative that we also have taken in 2019, and it is regards to a more stable price, milk price actually, for dairy farmers. So what we also do is go into a dialogue with the specific producers before us, and we have been working with Inex in order to make sure that we can, for a specific volume for every dairy farmer that is attached to Inex, that he can get the fixed price. And why is that necessary? Because the milk price is varying, is sometimes rises and sometimes falls a lot. And it is, of course, very hard for the dairy farmers in order actually to get a more stable price and to create and to be able to do their business together. So what have we been doing, and just an example of a more social initiative, is we work together with suppliers and we make sure how can we help them, how can we make them a little bit more stable so that they can also do their investments that are needed. If we really want to talk about sustainability, you also have to give the means to people, to entrepreneurs, to actually do something very vulnerable. And the milk price was a good idea specific for this category of producers, to also help these people for a specific volume to make sure that they get a stable income and they can also invest furtherly into their businesses. So that was my second case, and maybe just the last one. I don't know if you have heard of it, but what we are doing today, and it was very much actually originated from an R&D&I project, is creating and developing a sea farm. And the sea farm actually that finds itself very much to our Belgian coast. It's very close to Newport, where we actually look together with other partners and create our own system to find also new solutions and offering alternatives for meat, for example. So what we want to do is producing mussels together with other partners, producing mussels into the North Sea on a sustainable manner, making sure that it doesn't harm the ecosystem that is already there in the North Sea. So it is actually making use and combining ecosystem services and making sure that you can still produce, you can come up to the dietary needs of the people of tomorrow, that you can offer alternatives, and that you can also combine it with a good taste, a good measure, and also with the needs and of the client itself. So what we will do is we will build the first lines. We just got the operation and the environmental permit in 2020, and in 21 we will develop the whole sea farm together with partners, and then we will actually cultivate the first mussels. And later on, we will also probably look at other solutions, for example, as seaweed and oysters. And this is also very much originated from people working together, having social opportunities, for example, with regard to more less meat and more alternatives for proteins, and actually creating business and entrepreneurship that can really help you and give valuable solutions, also on a social, specifically on an ecological level, but also an economical level. Because if you want to keep it locally, then you can have added value for people who are actually working on the businesses who are very much attached to the sea farm. And this means that we all can lever up and actually work together in a whole new way of thinking of sustainable business models, where those three components actually are filled in, are thought through, and making sure that you have a long-term vision and a long-time way of looking at creating added value through value-driven craftsmanship in retail. So thank you very much for your attention, and if you've got any further questions, please don't hesitate.
I think there actually were a couple of questions from the audience. They are listed right here. So the first question was, are Colruyt's sustainability policies mainly driven by the boards and investors, or the customers, or the competition, embracing ESG, for instance? So, okay.
The very heart of sustainability lies within the mission, and it's true. And yes, it really helps if your CEO is also very much focusing on sustainability. And yes, it is important that also the board of directors are represented, are very accountable also for the projects that are lying in sustainability. But what is really driven is also the idea of creating sustainable added value for the customers. The customers are a reason to believe. Their needs and also the societal needs need a combination of those two, and actually they are a reason to exist. So if you want to combine the needs of a customer and what is happening on a social level, then I think you can create new entrepreneurship, and it should be also supported by the board of directors and also by the CEO. But it's a supporting level. So the main reason is the combination of the needs of the customers and everything that is happening on the more societal level.
Okay, I believe we had one more question, which we will let you answer. What is the strategy of Colruyt to make their supply chain more sustainable? I can imagine that's quite an extensive question, but if you could summarize it for us.
Yeah, sure. To make the supply chain more sustainable, I think the only way of doing it is looking at specific achievements that you want to achieve. Just for example, like the sea farm or the stable milk price or any other project that we have, and go and talk to one another. You never know how it's going to end, but this is why it makes it also so exciting to do. And the only way is actually the 5P from the SDGs, when you have the peace and the partnership that are very much at the heart of making sure that people from the supply chain talk to one another, and that you can actually make sure that you can make their added value very tangible for every partner in the chain. And I think creating this discussion and making sure that you can find coordinates between those two specific needs, this is what makes people talk to one another. So peace and partnership, I think, are essential in order to organize something.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Astrid, for that very interesting presentation and also for the response to the questions. Of course, if there's any questions left, you can always ask them in the Q&A. And then now we have the honor to present to you our Vice-rector, Silvia Lenaerts. She is Vice-rector Valorization and Development at the University of Antwerp. But besides that, she also founded a research group called, and I'll see if I can say it correctly, Dual Sustainability Water, Air and Energy Technology Group. And she's also part of the Antwerp Partnership for Sustainability. So who better to discuss the solutions our university can offer towards sustainability than Vice-rector Silvia Lenaerts.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and it's always a pleasure to talk after such two very interesting talks. So a lot has already been said, and I think between last year and this year, why sustainability is inevitable, I think we can leave out the question mark already. Sustainability is inevitable, and it's really nice to see all things going on much faster now than before what happened last year. So I'm really happy, and it's a pleasure to talk after such two inspiring examples. So it's all about creating value for society, and as Vice-rector Valorization, that is of course very important to me. And then to go back as a university we have to take up our responsibility towards sustainability, and we can be the driver in innovation ecosystems. So we are a partner with a lot of resources. We have a wealth of resources. We have talented people, we have equipment, we have infrastructure, and we want to bring that all together and act as a critical and independent partner. So let's zoom out first. What is the role of the university? And the role of the university has recently changed a lot. Before it was maybe easier, we had to do some education, research, and then something that was vaguely defined as service to society, while now it is expected from the university to play a vital role in fostering innovation in knowledge-intensive ecosystems. So we have to take up our role and have to connect people. Connecting, it's about connecting, it's about bringing entrepreneurial mindset to the research, to the developments, to all the knowledge that we have. And it's not that easy by just bringing together those two people, those two different state of minds. It's really about creating a culture in the innovation ecosystem of cooperation, of connecting, of co-creation and co-development. So we can be the critical independent partner that is built on a lot of resources, on knowledge, and we want to do more with all the knowledge that we have from one side, and from the other side we want to cooperate on the challenges that we are facing nowadays. It's not only one direction, it's bi-directional. It's not only technology push, but it's also very much challenge-driven, mission-driven. Or bringing together our researchers, creating multidisciplinary projects, working on common goals, long-term goals, by connecting entrepreneurs and researchers can really make impact as a university. And it can provide more value for society. And that's one way, but of course, when we do that, we can also attract more human talent to our region, connect the academic world to the business world, to governance and to citizens. And that's also one of the major roles that we have to play. Because we want to build long-term partnerships with industry, with government and society as a whole, we can really take the lead in our innovation ecosystem. Also related to the question that was asked to Hans Verboven, some sectors are more innovative and others are less. We can connect both by providing research, providing skills, providing knowledge to different sectors over the silos of the academic world and the business world. So we really want to set the scene by being an entrepreneurial university, and as said a lot by the previous speakers also, it's about creating added value. And the added value, the valorization, is no longer only economic value, but it's socio-economic value. We want to ensure the existence of the scientific enterprise. It's not short-term give and take, it's a long-term partnership, it's a two-way relationship where our research results, our knowledge and expertise can be translated to value for society, but as already said, also vice versa, which challenges are we facing and how can we provide solutions, but also system change, transition to more sustainable society. It's really important to have the quadruple helix model. I come back to that in a later slide, and in that way provide a lever to society. This is probably known by a lot of people in the audience. We can no longer simply speak of the triple helix and of the separate silos. It's not only about energy or about food or about urban systems or mobility. Everything is connected. And that's why it's also often presented as wicked problems. It's very clear, for instance, with the energy, it's related to mobility, it's related to living in the city, it's connected to food. So everything is connected. So you can no longer say, I have a problem, I contact one consultant or one expert and my problem is solved. We have to make the connections and form multidisciplinary teams to work together with people from industry, with policymakers, with citizens, to help to find solutions and transitions to a more sustainable society. This is a little bit the same. So the involvement of civil society, the involvement of citizens is really key because they can put things on the agenda and they can help create the culture of cooperation, the culture of collaboration, the culture of creating value. So entrepreneurship, entrepreneurs innovate, but you also need to provide the culture to make room for innovation, to acknowledge innovation, to provide enough space for people who want to be entrepreneurial, to support them by the right culture. And this is really a challenge for a university to provide the culture where innovation is valued as much as fundamental research. So this one is probably also very familiar to everybody, but I want to show it because for me SDG 17, partnerships for the goals, is really key. And that's our main mission, to put sustainability on the agenda. It is on the agenda, but really to collaborate with companies, policymakers and citizens. This one is a little bit more of the same, but sustainability for me is really in the middle of our education, for our research, but also valorization, creating value for a more sustainable society. We need innovation on the different SDGs, but also on the culture, on the on society, societal values as a whole, and that's why sustainability is no longer a question mark. Very short, what do we do? It's really too much to put on one slide. For instance, here in the last window of 4 years, we had more than 150 projects. All faculties are involved. We have each year more than, even this year, it's even more than 60 projects starting on something that is related to sustainability. So the key of this slide is it's all faculties are involved. It's not only engineering, it's law, it's economics, of course. It's about governance models. It's also social science. Every faculty is involved, and that's really important. That's why we decided a few years ago to make a partnership with our management school, with the City of Antwerp and the Province of Antwerp, the Port of Antwerp, BASF, the imported chemical company, and Randstad, to create a partnership for sustainability. And this partnership is based on projects, on shares, but also on system transition for more sustainability in our Antwerp region. It absolutely doesn't make sense if we act as competitors. We are all living on the same earth, so we have to go for it together. This partnership is built on several chairs, but we are always open to more projects from very small to very big. We are also acting, yes, of course it is multidisciplinary. It is SDG based, but it can also be more systemic change. This is an example of how we do it. We want to really do something, not only talking. There is a lot of talking about sustainability. We want to show results, to act, to step into society and to create results. We have, for instance, shared with the Port of Antwerp and BASF and Randstad on the sustainability transformation. With the Province of Antwerp, we work on an assessment framework for sustainability for the different cities in the Province of Antwerp. And then we also have one on sustainable education for sustainability management, together with RMS, of course, and Breda. It's value-driven, so it's really in the broader sense of socio-economic value. And it's also very much about connecting people. People have to find each other to cooperate. You cannot force that top down. You have to try to connect the right people. And of course, within a year, a lot have changed, and now it's really clear that we need public-private partnerships, and that the university, the city, the province, all our governments do take up their responsibility to provide also infrastructure funding. We are also heading the Belgian Sustainable Development Solutions Network, which is directed by the Secretary General of the United Nations. Of course, Jeffrey Sachs had an important role in it. We also gave him an honorary degree as a university, and he is a very big example. And of course, he really set the scene by providing first the Millennium Development Goals and now the Sustainability Development Goals. Meanwhile, a lot of other organizations have entered this network, and it also works with projects and will focus on achievements on the longer term. These are some of the partners involved. Important to mention here is The Shift. The Shift is a really huge organization in Belgium. I think both of you are also members, where we also have a very important connection to industry. So what is sustainability for us as a university? We want to innovate for more sustainability. That can be in the form of a product, process, but also very important organization or business models, because often trying to improve one product is the easy part, but making the whole system change needs innovative business models, innovative ways of creating value and of our whole society. So to conclude, the role of universities. Ecosystems are very important for the future because our society has become more complex. Everything goes very fast. So we really need to cooperate in innovation ecosystems. The university has an important role because it has to educate those to whom the future belongs. and it has to set up innovation projects to go to more sustainability. The real challenge is to create a culture where innovation and valorization are valued as much as other things at the university, and also count in evaluation of people. What is key in realizing this is the entrepreneurial thinking, and that's why we believe we have to catalyze the exchange of people from industry with people of the university. It's a both-way exchange of people that can boost the entrepreneurial thinking. So that was it. Thank you very much for this very interesting opportunity.
Thank you. I see we have a few questions, so I think we have two for Silvia as well, but we also have some questions left for Astrid, so I think maybe we can start with you, if that's okay, and then I will give you the questions to prepare. Okay, go ahead.
All right. There was a question with regard to the lowest prices, I believe. Or first of all, with regard to the eco score and the parts of the pricing model, I know there's a lot of questions with regard to Colruyt lowest prices and sustainability, and I understand the question because somehow it seems a bit not too easy. But I really want to say is Colruyt Group is not setting a price, it's following a price, and that is a huge difference. What is happening with regard to sustainable sourcing and the partnership and the initiatives that we have with local farmers and with regard to all the practices that we do with related to sustainable sourcing is important, but is not related to the price that we offer to the customers. And that is very important because you really, and it is also said before, you really need to invest in sustainability as you need to invest in entrepreneurship and in innovation. And sometimes you will only see the results after a few years. And that is important. And this is also why it is important to keep things absolutely separately. So the things that we do with regard, for example, to sustainable entrepreneurship within the retail activities or before them are very much separated from the price that we're setting to our customers. And this also means that sometimes you really need to invest a lot and then still have the lowest prices offered to our customers. And this is also a role of Colruyt lowest prices, making sure that sustainability is also available for every customer that comes to the store.
I think we have one more question.
Yeah. The food industry with regard to deforestation. Okay, yes, it is true. And the food industry has a huge impact on deforestation. That is absolutely true. This is why also we, first of all, we started these value chains of, for example, cocoa, soya in feed and in food with regard to palm oil are very, very complex, untransparent change. And this is why you really need to work with specific labels as, for example, RSPO with regard to palm oil. And because you really need a certain leverages for all those people who really want to invest in more sustainable palm plantages. This is why you work with certificates, but also what you can do and what we really find together is that companies are connecting to another, and this is also mentioned by the first speaker, to create more transparency, which is also asked from the Green Deal to create far more transparency in the whole value chains with regard to specifically those projects who are causing deforestation today. And this is a very good evaluation, a very good change that is going on to to make sure that the impact is known and that something can be done about it, but only that can only happen if we do it together. So certificates are a first step, but creating more transparency and making sure that things could be done properly to avoid deforestation is a second one. And we're using those both phases at Colruyt Group.
Okay, thank you so much, Astrid, for answering the people's questions at home. I think that's very useful. Should you have any more questions or come up with any questions later on, of course, don't hesitate to ask, or also during the network moment afterwards. We're more than happy to answer those. We also have some more questions for our Vice-rector after that very interesting presentation, I can imagine. So if you wouldn't mind reading the questions and maybe answering them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions. Put them a little bit closer. So the first one was, do you plan to research on setting the collaborative business models to assist transitions that need the help of various stakeholders? I think definitely yes, that is our role as a critical partners, and we absolutely need the various stakeholders. So that's, I think, the Faculty of Business Economics that has a huge role to play there. So definitely yes. And then how does the university plan to reward innovation for its researchers as a viable career option? That's for me also a very important question that's related to the culture. And I think we have to go much faster. We still are stuck to the criteria of research, education, and service to society. We are working on that to accelerate so that every person, every researcher has a chance to do that where his or her passion is. And if somebody wants to really focus on innovation, valorization, that should be possible, and that should be part of the evaluation and of the evaluation criteria and promotion criteria. So definitely yes, we are talking about that. The deans have a very important role there, but of course it has to be accelerated. And I think that is it for me.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Should we have any more questions later on, we will find a way to answer them either in the chat or that should be fine. And Professor Lenaerts also mentioned the importance of the deans. And of course, we cannot conclude an evening in business update without hearing from our own dean from the Faculty of Business and Economics, Professor Koen Vandenbempt, who will give the closing remarks of tonight's evening.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, dear alumni, dear students. I'm very, very happy to be here. And by the same token, I'm very, very sad you are not here. Normally, my task would be to invite you to a very good reception in this very beautiful building. You probably, especially as an alumni, are happy to come back to. Now, not being able to do that, I can do, of course, take the floor or the screen in this case, yes, and also elaborate a little bit on the very important topic of sustainability. Not too much. I have basically 4 things I want to cover with you. Yes, 2 on sustainability and 2 other messages, let's say, yes, as a dean to our students, but also mainly to our alumni and colleagues who are listening in. First, of course, I think thank you, Karen, Atlas Copco, for the testimonial. Thank you, Astrid, Colruyt Group, for the testimonial and the cases. And of course, thank you, Silvia, Vice-rector, University of Antwerp, of also indicating how a university is moving in this direction. I think it's also clear, listening into the examples, but also when you, I mean, in my own talks with people, with business people, that the diversity of companies is finally translating itself in their diversity or their different approach to sustainability. And for me, this is a very good sign. It means basically that sustainability as a big word is finally going away from general truths to what really matters in business. Yes, so it becomes part of
the operation model, of the business model, of how companies also can make money in a sustainable way. So I think we are moving the good direction or the right direction in this way. Sustainability is a very important topic. It has been named probably differently earlier, and I will come back to that. That's my second part I want to cover with you, and I will now just take my the slide. I have 3 slides prepared. Oh, that's me. Yeah. And here, the first one I want to just indicate, like Silvia, the vice-rector, was talking on the university as a whole. I want to focus a little bit more on what we do as a faculty. I think this is also interesting, or you're still studying at our faculty, or you have been studying at our faculty. At the Faculty of Business and Economics. For some of you, it was called the Faculteit Toegepaste Economische Wetenschappen, the Faculty of Applied Economic Sciences, but as you know, we changed the name a couple of years ago. We are, I mean, if you look at the concept of sustainability, you will see it runs deep in our DNA. And it has always run deep in the DNA. And just touching on 3, as you can see, on 3 areas, domains, where our core activities are in. First, let me just very shortly give you some examples how it's incorporated in our research, yes, and what I call thought leadership. The Faculty of Business and Economics is a broad faculty. We cover many, many disciplines. And I think hearing just also the 3 testimonials, you have also heard that one of the key aspects of sustainability is cross-discipline. It's not in one discipline. It probably started also in our faculty a long time ago in, of course, on environmental economics, probably, and then in Dutch, milieueconomie, Professor Avil Verbrugge, who was pioneering that. But that's already a long time ago, yes. Now we see much more integrated approaches, and I think that's clear from as well the examples of Atlas Copco as the example of Colruyt, that there are no discipline-based solutions to this, and I think this is a really good. So in our faculty, yes, and of course also university, but in the faculty as well, we have different research groups that are working on this, but the main theme is probably that they go, yes, that they go beyond the traditional academic silos or the traditional academic disciplines. Of course, we put some focus on it, and as the first speaker with Hans, Professor Hans has indicated, our range, what we try to do is offer also our students fundamental insights, but also insights or work together with practice. And I think that's also important to do so. We have also a number of what we call chairs, leerstoelen, specifically on sustainability. And I think that's also a very nice way to cooperate, to seek a little bit the cooperation with the university together with business on that. And so the thought leadership, the research is there together with the Antwerp Management School, together with other parts of the university. Also in the area of education, I think we are a forerunner. Let me just give you a number of examples. I gave you one already with milieueconomie, again in Dutch. So the environmental economics with Professor Avil Verbrugge started a long time ago. If you take sustainability broader, it's also about ethical and responsible management, yes, and management practices. I think this has been always a cornerstone within the faculty. But more recently, and that means 8 years ago, we started with the I-Week, which is called International Week on Sustainability. So for those alumni that graduated longer than 8 years ago, this is a little bit new, yes. But this is a very nice format. And 8 years ago, I mean, if we try and travel back, I mean, you will see that 8 years ago, I mean, sustainability was really it was not at the core of teaching business. Now it's core in what we do. I think it's very important. But at that point, it was it was really at the author circle of what we were doing, or in general, what higher education in management was doing. And even 8 years ago, under the previous Dean Rudy Martens, we started with the International Week on Sustainability, and where we really take our students, yes, it's a mandatory course for our students of applied economic sciences, yes, into 1 week fully in sustainability, all aspects, yes. And this has grown, of course, since 8 years. Since then, you will see, and our students know that in every of our projects, in every of our programs, yes, we have at least one course, and often a cross-discipline course on sustainability. It has perhaps another name. It can be an integration project, for instance, for the business engineers, but it's so fundamental. There is no one student graduating here at this faculty that has not have an exposure, yes, to the issues of sustainability, sometimes very much in detail. Think about sustainable finance. Think about the sustainability in supply chain, also with the examples of Colruyt and so on, yes, but also on responsible management. And I think this is really, really important. Also, the last box you see, it has to do with how we work internally. Walk the talk, we try to do that, yes. Sometimes teaching and researching something is easier than applying yourself, but in the latest, in the last box you see there, I just want to indicate a number of initiatives we do as people working in the faculty. There are two I want to mention that we are part with the university as well with on the Green Impact Project, yes. And for those, of course, I think you are aware, but let me just, I took my speaking notes here. Yeah, so the Green Impact Project is basically awarded by the UNESCO Award for pioneering work on sustainability and behavioral change. Now, what is interesting about this is that the Green Impact Project has, it has already been used by a lot of companies, that's something else, but it's a model for bringing to bring about bottom-up change, yes. So it's also about small initiatives we take, and there are many that we have taken so far, and we are doing very good, and also related to the climate change strategy of the University in Antwerp, and currently our faculty is also leading this initiative, which I think is that the awareness of the importance is not only in research and teaching, but we try also to do this in a good way. So this is about how our faculty, where sustainability has always been part of what we do, of our teaching and research. So you can be assured that also the students graduating now really had a deep dive into all the aspects of sustainability and are able to balance a little bit, yes, the sustainability of organizations, also the profit with a sustainable approach. What I also want to take this opportunity, moving a little bit away now of the sustainability topic, is to invite you, and probably many of you do that, but still I think it's important to follow us a little bit. Yes, we are very active on a lot of the social media channels, as you can see. These are not new, of course, and we have a very good presence there. Many updates also on what we do on sustainability, but what our students do. But I want to mention also the following, which is a new initiative we started, and that is called the Profcast. Yes, the Profcast, it's a podcast where each Friday we release an interview with one of our professors. And here you see Sven Dame, our young professor, new professor in real estate finance, yes. And every Friday you get a new professor, and perhaps it's interesting to listen in. We made it very easy for you all. I mean, pick your choice where you want to follow us on this, whether it's Spotify or YouTube, yes, or just on the website. It's something definitely that worthwhile doing. Stay connected to your faculty, to your university. This is an easy way to do so. Lastly, before I really invite you to the reception, yes, in an alternative way, some other messages here. Our faculty, I mean, every year we try to beef up a little bit what we do for our alumni. As you know, we have the biggest alumni network group, Alechia, which is which started from this faculty. Many of you are probably member of it, and there is a lot of networking going on. Of course, during Corona, it was not easy, but I was told this will kick off again, reunion quizzes, trips, and which remains very important. What we also started 2 years ago is our career services for our students, but this is also a great way for you to interact with with us, yes. Helping you to find new talent, or as our friends did today here, giving testimonials. We do a lot of workshops here, so if you need further information on that, feel free to contact us. We have, of course, we try to do 2 business updates a year, so the next one will be in fall. Fall will be, yes, the time, hopefully, that it's, we can say post-corona in one way or another. Yeah, probably it will not be fully post-corona, but still that we can see each other again in 3D and not in 2D, and that would be really very interesting. Don't forget to check the alumni blog also that we are having, where we try to feature much more our alumni, what they are doing, how they are thriving, how they try to remain also in contact with our faculty. Yes. And again, it's not really something I can reveal yet, just the name that we'll start also a new alumni platform, and we will keep you, of course, updated on this. This being said, I think I can give the word to Celine again, who will guide you a little bit to the network event that will follow.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dean Koen Vandenbempt, for giving us these closing remarks on what was a very informative, I hope for everyone viewing at home, informative evening. For me personally, it was very much. So I want to thank all of our speakers for making the trip down here. I know we're not used to the transportation anymore, but I'm very thankful that you are all here to share your knowledge. Now, of course, as Koen Vandenbempt told us, the networking part is very important, and I think a lot of us are very tired of the online alternatives, but nonetheless, we have to do something while we wait. So we want to warmly invite you to join us on our platform, WonderMe, which is actually a very fun way to connect because it sort of allows you to create a little bit of a bubble, even though we've had a lot of bubbles lately, but okay. But where you can talk to each other, video chat, and have an informal way to network. So my lovely assistant will be posting the link in the Q&A where you can just go to and where you can meet us in a short while. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you this fall in person. Have a lovely evening.